Tonight, a man killed and his daughter critical after a motorbike crash. With Sunday tourism operators booked out over Easter. Funds raised to help the family of a missing fisherman. And a major medical practice to close in Bowen.
This is 7 News with Rob Brough.
Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us. A 60-year-old man has died and his daughter is fighting for life after their motorbike smashed into the side of a car in Comala. The collision was on a horror stretch of the Brough highway that's claimed the lives of other drivers in the past.
The impact of this frightening crash is evident. The front of a Harley-Davidson is smashed and the force of the collision imprinted on a small silver sedan.
On arrival, we found quite a confronting scene. Our officers did a really great job. There was a gentleman who unfortunately was deceased on our arrival.
A Mackay father was riding the motorbike. His 19-year-old daughter was on the back. They were travelling with a group of riders when a car in front of them pulled to the side to do a U-turn.
I was inside waiting for him to go past and then done the U-turn and not seen the last bike.
Alan Atherton's motorbike slammed into the side of the car, the impact so forceful the car rolled. The 60-year-old died at the scene. His daughter is now fighting for life.
Both occupants had helmets on at the time, but she still suffered head injuries.
She has quite significant injuries and she was taken by helicopter to Townsville.
A 63-year-old woman was behind the wheel of the car. She had 4 passengers, including a 5- and 7-year-old. They all had just minor injuries, but it required an intense emergency response.
We sent a lot of different units. We sent critical care paramedics, via road, ambulance paramedics from various different stations in Mackay, Serena.
The Brough highway near Comala is known as a fatigue zone. 2 other drivers have died on the road already this year. Jade Richards, 7 News.
Well, the Whitsundays are again a hotly sought-after holiday spot, with thousands making the most of a bumper Easter long weekend. Tourist attractions were fully booked, leaving our operators optimistic about the future of the region's tourism industry.
Spending the long weekend on the water was high on many travellers' bucket lists, and Whitsunday tourism operators are delighted.
It has been absolutely wonderful. The team have been really busy. We've had great visitation.
Ocean rafting operated tours every day of the Easter break, and every boat was full.
The islands were busy. Once we were out of the islands, you could just see boats everywhere.
More than 50% of Aussie guests were from southeast Queensland. The local holidaymakers were a welcome surprise, given that restrictions have eased for travellers.
I would have thought from 2 years of support that they might go elsewhere.
Even more exciting was the number of overseas guests stepping foot on the region's shores. Jan Claxton from Ocean Rafting says just under 20% of the visitors were internationals.
While quite small at the moment, we're seeing those numbers starting to arrive back into the country.
From the sounds of it's a lot of internationals visiting their family here.
Mackay Tourism CEO Taz Webber says people took advantage of the outdoor activities, choosing to hike through Cape Hillsborough or spotting the platypus in Youngla.
And I think the events, having the cricket last week, having the basketball this week, have really helped bolster up the numbers as well. Yeah, it was really good booster and injection into our economy over the weekend.
Rebecca Jensen, 7 News.
A GoFundMe page has been created to support the family of a missing Hervey Bay fisherman. Lee Eastham failed to return from a fishing trip on Airlie Beach on April 7. He was travelling in his 3-metre-long tinny with his pet dog Axel. Now, a friend of his family is trying to ensure they can afford to remain within the area while they search. Tammy Leach hoped the page will ease the financial burden, so far raising more than $1,000. The Whitsunday Volunteer Marine Rescue Club has been awarded more than $400,000 to upgrade its capabilities. The funding was announced by the federal government and will ensure VMR can continue to deliver vital services. The club says money will go towards expanding the building, ensuring they have state-of-the-art radio equipment, IT capability and continuous power supply. Students from around our region were excited to head back to school today after a 2-week-long Easter break. But with winter approaching its feared, COVID could again put pressure on our schools by hanging around the classroom.
The back-to-school rush was on for this young boy, who ran straight through the gates and into the playground this morning. Many children were ready to get right back into learning.
I'm excited to be back at school because we get to learn more new things and I get to see my friends again.
Feeling re-energised, ready to go again, ready to get back into the work and just get stuck into it.
And the transition has been a breeze so far, now that every state school classroom is air-conditioned. The move is part of a $477 million investment in the Cooler, Cleaner Schools program. At Whitsunday Anglican School, Term 2 is already looking jam-packed with events.
Probably the big highlight that we've got coming through later this year is our Whitsunday Voices Youth Literature Festival.
But the Queensland Teachers Union fears COVID could still impact learning, especially during winter.
What we do know is that we're going into the cooler months, so obviously COVID is still... There are a lot of cases still in our schools.
Whitsunday Anglican Principal Andrew Wheaton says COVID has only reinforced the importance of socialising in kids' lives. And parents agree. Most aren't too worried about sending their children back to the classroom.
They've got the structures in place, so no, I'm fairly confident he'll be all right.
COVID's still there anyway, so I guess it's okay.
Rebecca Jensen, 7 News.
More than 5,000 Bowen residents will have to find a new doctor after a major local practice announced it will close its doors. The retiring practitioners at Queens Beach Medical Centre can't find anyone to take over, leaving the town on the verge of a health crisis.
Bowen's beachside community has a lot to offer, but not enough to attract a much-needed new doctor to town.
The livability is unbelievable, yet we're still finding it hard to attract doctors. So why is that?
The Queens Beach Medical Centre was opened almost 40 years ago, but it's coming to an end. The centre will close on August 1.
We've got two legendary doctors that have been there for over 30 years, just want to retire, plain and simple.
Whitsunday's acting mayor Mike Brunker says Dr Trezise and Dr Yin have been trying to sell for 2 years with no luck. And with just 2 remaining practitioners, it's impossible to keep the doors open. There are 5,000 patients on the books who will soon have to find a new local clinic.
That will take almost 40% of private GPs out of that community. And of course, that workload will need to be picked up by an already overstretched public hospital.
The local council and state member are calling on the state and federal governments to help attract more doctors to regional areas. They say the shortage is an ongoing problem across central and north Queensland.
That stretches in Dysart and Moranbah and Collinsville and all those communities who are looking for medical practitioners.
We're facing a medical crisis here, an absolute disaster.
Jade Richards, 7 News.
New research is highlighting the staggering amount of plastic washing up on our beaches and clogging waterways. Conservationists are calling on all of us to do our part to protect the environment, saying every little bit helps.
Polystyrene is often used as protective packaging, but it can also be destructive. A survey from Conservation Volunteers Australia found the material was the most common type of litter, posing a major threat to wildlife. Volunteers collected more than 250,000 pieces of rubbish over 18 months.
Cigarette butts are still a major problem, and that's despite smoking rates halving in recent decades.
But some government measures are having a positive impact.
Plastic bags and plastic utensils are towards the bottom of the list of those items we find, and that suggests the bans are starting to work.
The federal government is phasing out the use of polystyrene by the end of the year. Queensland has made a head start with the state government banning single-use takeaway containers last September. The organisation says it'll keep fighting to protect our waterways. It's calling for people to take part in this weekend's Sea to Source Day of Action.
Signing up for a few hours or a few days, it all makes a difference. Ensuring our world-famous riverbanks, bays and beaches are dressed for success as international tourists return to Australia.
Taylor Larson, 7 News.
We'll take a break in a moment. A light plane veers into a ditch at Shute Harbour. And our Defence Force heroes taking on the Invictus Games. Nice having you with us on 7 News. Well, pilot, crew and passengers have escaped injury after a light plane veered into a ditch. The Graham aviation aircraft from Cairns was leaving its hangar at the Whitsunday Airport at Shute Harbour yesterday, but didn't make it to the runway. No one was hurt. The airport says it wasn't a serious incident. Back in 2019, 6.4 million Australians enrolled to vote, but 8% didn't make it to the polls on election day. The date to enrol for next month's federal election has now passed, and Star FM's Scott Linden hit the streets to find out if locals updated their details in time.
Thanks, Rob. Well, as we know, election time is only a couple of weeks away, and the date to get your enrolment all sorted out, well, that's already passed. It was actually yesterday. You had until last night to get all of that sorted. So think of yourself as an 18-year-old. Do you think you would enrol to vote if you were 18?
Yes, I am enrolled.
Are you enrolled?
Yes. It's your country to look after it. It's your choice.
Yeah.
So make it.
Did you enrol to vote? The cut-off date was yesterday.
Is it?
For this election.
For this election?
For this election.
Yeah, right. I did not vote, no. I've just moved from the Gold Coast, so I haven't changed my address and everything yet.
Do you know when the cut-off is?
No, I don't.
Yesterday.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I'm New Zealand citizens.
How would someone convince an 18-year-old to vote?
I reckon more advertisement, advertise it more to a younger demographic, I reckon.
Well, hopefully you do have everything sorted out and you're in the correct seat, especially if you've moved in the last couple of months and getting to know who the local candidates are. We've got a couple of weeks to go till the election campaign ends, and I'll catch you next Tuesday for Street Talk here on 7 News.
Well, thank you very much, mate. Sergeant Shane Bramley has claimed gold on day 3 of the Invictus Games at The Hague. He's leading a team of more than 30 current and former military men and women, inspiring recovery through sport.
This is the shot that propelled Sergeant Shane Bramley to the podium, wearing the nation's pride.
Pretty amazing experience. The roar of the crowd, there's so much support and love.
And not for the first time, the discus champion suffers from fibromyalgia, a painful and chronic musculoskeletal condition following years of service as a Defence Force air dispatcher and 2 overseas deployments. At the Invictus Games, his injuries don't define him.
In 2017, I went along to one of the sports camps that was an Invictus training camp. One of the coaches who was involved said, "Hey Shane, why don't you throw the discus?" Because my arms are so long.
Shane represents the country in sitting volleyball and wheelchair basketball too, and co-captains the team of more than 30 Australian current and former serving military men and women competing. The Far North's Chris Reck is tearing up the track and field. Yapoon's Gabrielle Ramon took silver in the shot put.
It's kind of emotional, but I'm trying to keep it in. But I just really wanted to do it for the boys at home, boys here.
Abby Guerin, 7 News.
Yeah, no, that truly is inspirational. Good on you, Shane.
Amazing experience and amazing athletes, aren't they, Brough?
Showing that to our Cowboys before every game,
absolutely,
mate.
spot on.
Inspiring them to play, eh?
Yep.
The Hammer could be back Saturday.
He could, Rob. Look, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow was named in their squad of 25 today, and there's a slight chance of tackling the Titans. We'll have all the team news next, as the Mackay Cutters plan to take down the high-flying Falcons on the Sunshine Coast. And welcome back to 7 News. Well, the Cowboys have made one official change for Saturday's clash against the Gold Coast Titans, with Griffin Neame replacing Connolly Lemuelu on the bench. But Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow has been named in the extended squad as part of the reserves, and there's a small chance of playing as he recovers from a PCL injury.
The Cowboys came from 12 points down in Canberra, and it has their next opponents on alert.
They've been playing pretty good footy. They've been competing for the full 80. I think last week against our Raiders, they just kept staying in there with the Raiders, and then at the end they come on top.
The North Queensland team will only be stronger against the Titans, with Griffin Neame returning from concussion. He's won Connolly Lemuelu's bench spot, leaving Jermaine Tanua-Brown in the reserves.
He's taken his opportunities when he's had them.
he moves well, he bends a line, and it means something to him to play for the club.
The Titans will fly up to Townsville Friday with plenty to fix. They're coming off losses to the Eels and Manly and have conceded 90 first-half points compared to just 42 in the second.
We've just got to start the way we finished the game and, we put ourselves in a winning position.
Helam Lukey will start in the back row after playing 80 minutes against the Raiders.
Helam's improved week after week on the little things that we're trying to get into his game, and most of those are around his defensive involvements. We know what he can do with the ball.
Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow has been sidelined since round 4, but he's been named on the extended reserves list. He's recovering well from a PCL injury, but won't be rushed back into the team.
The way he moved on Monday, I thought he moved really well, so it's just a matter of seeing how he pulls up today, and then we're going to he's going to do a full training session tomorrow, and we'll just make a judgment call on the back of that.
Joey Dunlop, 7 News.
Sticking with league, and the Cutters also play on Saturday, and head coach Dave Elliott has adjusted his team list accordingly if Mackay's Cowboy allocations aren't available for their clash with the Sunshine Coast Falcons. The Falcons, they will be hard to ground. They're currently sitting 4th with a 3-1 win-loss record.
If a 3-1 record isn't intimidating enough, should the Cutters be worried that the Falcons are yet to hit their straps?
All our wins have been good. We haven't been as good as we can be yet.
But it's a similar reception back at home.
We had a really good opportunity to come away from the start of the season with a 3-1, being 18-10 up with the Capras.
The Falcons will get at least 3 of their Melbourne Storm allocations back for Saturday's clash on the sunny coast, but Mackay posed some threats of their own.
They got a strike all over the park. They've been clunky, not too dissimilar to us, to be honest, so hopefully they're clunky for one more week.
With Scott Drinkwater and Brendan Elliott called into the Cowboys, Carl Kennedy is given the nod at fullback, but Cowboys' Kane Bradley, Latia Mosadraki and Dejan Arce are all named and expected to play.
Dejan Arce as well as a really crafty half, so they got strike. They got Andre Nico outside back and Mosadraki as well. Those guys can hurt you.
Ross Bella and Jake Hawkins both returned from injury, with Zach Patch named in the reserves in case Sean Mullaney isn't good to go at lock.
Got one teeth sort of knocked out, the other one was almost knocked out. So he's keen to play, so he'll come back in at that 13 position and hopefully play some really good minutes again for us.
Savannah Burke, 7 News.
Magpies Crusaders hope to announce their replacement for former head coach Brian Murphy by the end of the week. Club president Barry Jensen says the club's in the final stages of striking a deal with the new coach, and he could be on deck as early as Friday.
He's a little bit older than any of the boys we've had over the last few years. He's 46 years of age, so he's a little bit more mature that's probably what we really need at the moment.
And after weeks of controversy and drama, the Crusaders returned to the winner's circle in the Queensland Premier League with their 4-1 victory over the Western Pride over the long weekend. Magpies will look to make that back-to-back wins on Saturday night in Brisbane when they take on Southside. Great result for the boys. I know I was away last week. It has been in the car for a week and a half, but anyway, happy Easter. It's a bit melted, but, the thought that counts.
I'll be very careful with it.
Yeah, you do.
Gee, thanks, Nate. Liv will have the weather in a moment. Fine day tomorrow, maybe a little overcast. It's all coming up after the break.
Good evening, Livio, Regano with tonight's weather. Everything seems quiet at the moment, but in less than 48 hours it's all going to change. On Thursday, the southeast wind picks up sharply and the showers start rolling in. And then on Friday, Saturday, it gets really cool, damp and windy. Sunday doesn't look too flash either, but maybe slightly brighter. In Mackay, our temperature range today was 21 to 27 degrees, both numbers close enough to average. In Proserpine, the top was only 26 thanks to cloud, and highest overnight rainfall was 44 millimetres at Suckridge and Weir. We'll start with the satellite loop now. First, we've got some high cloud that's moving across the Darling Downs. That'll be clearing tomorrow. But in the tropics, you can start to see a vortex forming. We've got a tropical trough which over coming days is going to intensify and produce quite a lot of rain through north and central Queensland, especially north of about Mackay, where we could get hundreds of millimetres over the next few days. Let's look at today's chart. What you've got is an inland trough firstly. It's moving across Queensland in the form of a cool, dry change. Hasn't reached the east coast yet. There's a low that's forming on the trough just south of PNG that will intensify into the tropical rain event, which will go mostly from Thursday till about Monday. We've got a collapsing ridge on the east coast, so winds are getting lighter and there has been a little bit of fog around this morning. Tomorrow's chart, the trough moves further east. You can barely see it now. The low starts to intensify and rain begins to encroach upon the North Tropical coast. On the outlook chart, a vigorous southeasterly change now moves up the coast, lowering temperatures, and this is where it starts to rain heavy across far north Queensland as that tropical trough moves onshore. Now the latest from the Weather Bureau, the boating forecast for Mackay waters. East to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots tomorrow. On Thursday increasing to 20 to 25 knots, and then finally on Friday, strong force winds up to 30 knots. Our high tides are getting later. Tomorrow they're approaching lunchtime, depending on your port, of course. And with the full moon behind us, the swing is starting to lessen. Central coast and Whitsunday, some early fog. Late coastal showers developing, maybe just one or two. Mackay 28 degrees, 31 for Bowen. Proserpine 29. Central Highlands and Coalfields, some early fog, then a mostly sunny day with Emerald reaching 33 degrees, Claremont 32 and Moranbah again 33. Looking ahead for Mackay, showery and blustery from Thursday through most of the weekend with daily totals up to 20 odd mils. Also much cooler under the blanket of heavy cloud with top temps only making it to the mid-20s. Now it's back to the team.
Yeah, wonderful. Good on you, mate. Nice having your company, folks. Hope you enjoyed the Easter break. Just a reminder, if you'd like to watch anything again, 7plus app or our page, 7news.com.au. Catch you tomorrow night. Good night.